Am I living? Oh, what a funny thing to say. But your mama always said, look up into the sky, find the sun on a cloudy day, on a cloudy day. Your mama always said, look up into the sky.
Smell the fairy floss in the air. I can smell the chips in the air today, man.
I know. Maybe after the show, if you're a good boy.
Oh, welcome to another episode of Livin', everybody. You're down here at the Royal Adelaide Show today with me, Vince Fusco.
And myself, Nancy Timpano. And it's really nice to be back. We have worked on this stage before.
We have.
And it's nice to be back in a very different capacity. And like I mentioned, you guys are experiencing the first ever podcast recording on the Goyder Stage here at the Royal Adelaide Show. That has been going on for how many years?
Oh, well, the Royal Adelaide Show has actually been going for 184 years. Do you believe that? Now, today's topic, because we are down here at the Royal Adelaide Show, we thought what better way to celebrate than by reflecting on memories of the Royal Show of years gone by. Now, you mentioned earlier before, Nance, and we've talked about it a fair bit on the show, but you and I have actually MC'd on the Boulevard Stage for 15 years together.
We've also introduced acts here on this very stage because it was about, how many years ago now? We'll talk to him in a moment, but about 8 years ago that the Goyder Stage started putting together these fantastic, spectacular performances that is unbelievable. You'll see the movement, you'll see the costumes, but it's the employment of talent that has been phenomenal, and he does it very, very well.
He does. We're talking about Mr. Shane Wilson from Shane International. If you've seen any of the dance performances up here with some of Australia's best dancers, singers, aerialists, it's a wonder for the eyes and the senses. But more than that, Nance, we talked about 184 years. The Royal Adelaide Show actually started with the first gathering of the Agricultural Society in 1839.
Whoa.
And it was actually held on North Terrace at the exhibition hall on North Terrace. Did you know that?
No, I did not. There you go.
Before the society moved down here to what we now know as the Wavell Showgrounds, that happened in 1925. Before that, it was actually all held on North Terrace.
Wow, that's fantastic. And do you remember, it was 9 years ago now, if I'm doing the maths, we were actually out there cutting the cake for the 175th birthday of the Royal Adelaide Show. How special was that morning?
It was a very special day to cut the cake. You and I had the pleasure of doing that, the privilege of cutting the birthday cake for the 175th birthday. Doesn't look a day over 174, I'd say. And, you know, over the 184 years of the history of the Royal Adelaide Show, did you know that it's only ever been cancelled 4 times in its history? First was for the plague, the second time was for World War II, and then more recently in 2020, which was the 3rd time it had ever been cancelled in history due to our good mate Rona. And then last year, or 2021, because of the Delta variant.
Yeah.
But my gosh, it is so wonderful to be back here at the Royal Adelaide Show since 2022. And today, when we talk about the things of years gone by, what are some of your favourite memories of the Royal Adelaide Show?
So many to speak of, because with all the experience that we've had, working with Shane, like you mentioned, we've been out there at what's called now the Boulevard Stage. We've also been a part of the spectacular main arena event out there at night time before the fireworks. It used to be. We've been here at the Goyder Pavilion. Look, the cow milking is a favourite.
You do love a good cow milk off, don't you?
I love going to see that every single year. It's fantastic. The Yellow Brick Road, always a favourite.
One of my favourites is always the stunt driving, and I was lucky enough to be a passenger in 2019.
Yes, I remember that. That was after me.
Yes, well, I had to go and try to beat your record of most time spent on 2 wheels, most vomit outside of the car, because I get car sick.
It was the cheapest Botox I ever did have. Because I was scared, let me tell you.
There's a lot of amazing things that have changed over the years here at the Royal Adelaide Show, but one thing that's never changed is the Royal Agricultural and Horticultural Society and dedication to the country and the city meeting here. And of course, the core fundamentals of the Royal Adelaide Show was competitions. There's over 140 categories here that you can enter into, including livestock, pets, bake-off, everything. My favourite is personally the cake testing.
I know.
If I'm being totally honest.
That's your dream job, isn't it?
It is my dream job. You know that. And did you know that before the Goyder Pavilion was here, which was built in 2007, back in the 1930s, there was another building here called Centennial Hall. Now, Centennial Hall, Nance, hosted some of the biggest artists in history. Does anybody out there remember who maybe... There's 3 big artists that came here to Centennial Hall.
So what year did you say?
The year was 1964.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the crowd. I'm doing the math.
Doing the
here,
math
and
to
I'm
see
like,
who might have been
It was
around.
a pretty big band, people. And I don't know, one of their tunes may have gone, help, I need somebody.
Help.
Yeah?
Not just anybody. That's right. The Beatles started their
Beatles.
Australian tour in 1964 with their first 4 concerts right here at what was then Centennial Hall. And hey, 2 years after that, the Rolling Stones, they were here. Bit of Keith Richards. He still looks exactly the same, preserved in time, I think. No, someone's shaking their head saying he does not look the same. Not at all. No, absolutely. Awful.
Tattoos.
Looks
and
like he's melting
earrings,
some days.
yeah.
And then in 1966 as
Silly.
well, Bob Dylan even came and performed at Centennial Hall.
So we are sharing this stage that has been the home to many of the greats. And another great is our event manager, who we are about to welcome on to the Goyder Stage. We are talking about Shane Wilson from Shane International. So please let him come onto the stage. I know it's a podcast, but you can still give him a round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen. This is the man behind the magic on this stage and so many stages around Australia. Hello, Shane.
Hello.
Wow.
Good to see you again.
My goodness, in a different capacity.
I know.
But speaking about all the things that have happened, you remember a lot of what's happening, and you've educated us before we came along in, like, I think it was the year 2000. So prior to that, you were still involved with the show. At what capacity?
I've provided entertainment to the Royal Adelaide Show since 1998.
Wow. Yep.
Long time ago.
I think it was 1999 that you and I first met. It was prior to all the stages. Remember the outdoor lawn area? We did like the daytime kids program, and then at night
Yes,
we
that's
did
right.
the rock show.
There was a hall called the Rothmans Theatre, and outside that was a big grassed area.
Yes,
where
yes.
you did a whole lot of, I think, character stuff on the
Lots
stage.
of different characters. Like by day it was one type, but then by night, things changed. But it was always family friendly.
Girl.
Always. And our dressing room, if we think back that far, it was a caravan.
It was.
Do you remember?
It was.
Caravan. And now look.
It was a
look at what
caravan
you've
with
done.
blacked out windows.
Yeah.
How funny. It's funny that you mentioned the costume characters because, Shane, beyond the talent that we see on stage at the Royal Adelaide Show, you're also responsible for a number of the crazy characters that we've known and grown to love over the years here at the Royal Adelaide Show. Does anyone remember the Jesters? There were the crazy Jesters, there were the crash test dummies, the flower pot men, the butterflies.
Those beautiful butterflies.
What about the
walking around.
scarecrows?
Can I make a confession? Am I allowed to? Can I say it on the
go on.
record? I was one of those
was one of the
jesters and
scarecrows.
crash test dummies and scarecrows. And my favourite character to play, Shane, was always the scarecrows because we would stand just over here in the horticultural pavilion and we would stand in the Scarecrow
Scarecrow
exhibition
exhibition, yeah.
and we would wait for people to come along and then we would give them a fright.
Oh my goodness!
Did
Is
you
that
like
why
that?
there was no birds around for a short time? Because you
That's
were
right,
saying, oh,
because
well,
I
that
was
worked.
there. Absolutely.
That worked.
Shane, with all of the memories that you've had at the Royal Adelaide Show, what are some of the things that you reflect on and you really remember from not only producing entertainment here, but what about your own childhood?
Okay, well, I think the greatest memory I have is I would have been very young. I would have been probably about 9 years old, 10 years old. And there was a acrobatic group called the Flying Lotars
Oh yes, yes.
who used to perform. It was father and son and the sister
Yep.
who used to perform on top of one of the old lighting towers that was in the main arena. There's new lighting towers now in the main arena, but all the way up the top,
Yep.
right above the lights, they used to have rigging up there, and they'd have two sway poles and another apparatus where they would do all acrobatic stuff there at night time.
I remember
and
that.
It was really scary.
Yeah, we were a part of that show, remember? There was a group of us, Ground Wave, we were performing
Exactly.
in between that, and it was very scary. And something, was it called the Human Cannonball out there at the main arena?
There was a human cannonball
Human
out there one
cannonball,
day.
yes.
Oh my gosh, this woman would just literally be thrown out of the cannonball,
Yeah.
and yeah, she would just land
It
and...
landed Morphett Vale.
Have we ever found her? That's all right. No, that's all right.
That's still out looking, I think.
It's funny that you say the Flying Lotars. I remember
Yes.
the name. And if that would have been like 1999 or earlier, maybe?
Yeah, well, when I first saw him, as I said, I was about 10, so that's going back in the 1800s. But
Almost as old as the Royal Adelaide Show,
Yeah,
Shane, but
exactly.
you look fantastic for all of that time spent.
thank
here.
you.
But what you did is you made sure you loved them that much from your childhood is you brought them back
I
to
did.
that main arena event.
Yes.
And it
We had
worked beautifully.
we had a big stage set up in the
Yes.
main arena, and you were one of the compares of it.
I was
One of the
singing, I
singers,
think,
yes.
yeah. And do you remember how cold it was on the top of the tower?
Freezing.
I remember singing on a night like this. Kylie Minogue. It wasn't that bad back then, but it was that windy
Oh,
that
yeah.
it would literally take our breath away. We had our coats backstage, and then we'd take them off and we'd jump on stage and do our thing. It was spectacular. But one thing that never really, it took me a while to get my head around is the sound delay.
Yes.
Do you remember out there? It was like that
Yes.
echo.
Yes.
At-
There was a lot of technical expertise that went into trying to solve that sound delay
Yeah.
that we had all the way around the arena. That was one of the things that you had to cope with. But we had some fantastic people in that lineup, because you remember we had two very special guests from America.
Bart Simpson? Yes.
Lisa Simpson.
Yes, we did. Oh my gosh, I remember I was a part. Wow, you're really taking me back. This is beyond or pre-MC
Oh,
days.
yeah.
This is performance days. So I'm getting a bit nostalgic here.
Yeah, me too.
We'll just go backwards, shall we?
Absolutely.
Let's go back in time.
Oh, look
There
at
you
that.
go. That's what we
Look
needed.
At that. Look at that. Yeah, you've produced some spectacular shows, Shane, but you've
you.
given the opportunity. That's the big thing, the opportunity for someone like myself who, yes, I was a professional performer, but then you invited me back to MC, and that's kind of become my forte now. It's like, hang on,
100%.
I've forgotten the other stuff, and here I am MCing.
Well, that's
thank you.
Thank you to you. That's one of the things that a lot of people don't realise, is that the show has given the opportunity for a lot of Adelaide performers to be able to learn shows like this one, Lights, Camera, Action.
Yes.
There isn't a lot of opportunity for dancers and specialty performers to work long term in Adelaide. They get a lot of one night gigs.
Yep.
In various different locations, but a series of shows like this is very difficult for them to get.
Yep.
So it's a great opportunity for them, and we've, allowed that opportunity to happen for about, 100 different dancers on this stage alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I love is what you've done is you've managed to tie it all back to Adelaide, because it is the Royal Adelaide Show. And even though some of the talent may now live interstate, you have got choreographer extraordinaire Reese Bobridge from So You
Yes.
Think You Can Dance, who has been here from day
Day one.
of the Goyder Stage,
Yes.
choreographing your shows.
Yes.
So even though he may live interstate, you just make sure that he's born and bred. Reese and I were actually in part of the Adelaide Young Talent team back in the day,
I
like
believe it.
a million years ago. And yeah, I love the fact that you bring them all back for the Royal Adelaide Show, because it really does feel like home to a lot of us.
We have auditions for this show earlier on in the year, but we get lots of requests from Adelaide expats to come back and be a part of this show, and they've come all the way from America to be part of this show and use it as an opportunity to come home.
Yeah.
And the thing is, once you walk in the gate, you pay your ticket fee, but realistically, once you come in, it's up to you whether you choose or don't choose to spend any money, because you could sit in one of these chairs out the front and be entertained from morning to night
Absolutely.
just for that one ticket entry.
That's
so that's
right.
spectacular.
And it's free.
Exactly right.
I spoke to a lady yesterday who was a single parent, and she had 5 children, and she came up to me and said, all 5 of my children have enjoyed this so much. They obviously ranged in ages. And she said it's their first theatrical show
Yes.
that they've ever got to see.
Wow.
And she obviously had the opportunity to show them, because it was something free that was in the show.
Amazing.
And, touching people in that way is
Yeah.
just incredible.
So you've made the theatre accessible to so many people
Exactly.
that have never experienced it.
Exactly.
Shane, thank you very, very much
You're more than
for
welcome.
joining us on our Livin' podcast that will be available on Spotify and Apple. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Shane
you, Shane.
Wilson,
Thank you.
It's funny how you said, making it accessible. I remember one of my earliest memories of the Royal Adelaide Show was actually performing here in a fashion parade just outside on the runway there. And I remember performing out there, but it was actually the first place I saw live dance, live theatre. I don't know if you remember the Wool Hole, what used to be the Wool Hole down the other side of the showgrounds.
Yes,
I can see a few people nodding out there. Where we had the old fashion parade, of course.
Yeah.
And then it was funny, I was digging through some photographs the other day, Nance, just to reminisce upon looking at the topic today, and I found a photograph of me and my mum in 1993 going across. Do you remember the old chairlifts? Does anyone remember the chairlifts that used to go all the way around and over the showgrounds? What a great experience that used to be. I don't know how safe they were, but I'm sure they would have been, of course, regulation.
Well, do you know what we might do? Because we are back tomorrow. You may not be. We might have a different crowd. So we are going to be back tomorrow, and we're going to have our fantastic friend Nacho over here from Nacho Film, and we might go for a little wander around the showgrounds and just see how much it has changed. And maybe we can bring that to our podcast as well. So make sure you are scanning that QR code, you are following along the Live In podcast, and you can be a part of all our adventures here at the Royal Adelaide Show.
Absolutely. It has been going for so long. There is so much to talk about. Today we wanted to look at the broader history from where it started with the years gone by. Tomorrow we're going to look at more of the modern history of the Royal Adelaide Show, and we're going to be joined by a younger guest. That's a bit unfair to say to Shane, isn't it? But, he has been here a very long time. But tomorrow we're going to have a young woman joining us who's been here every single year of the Royal Show since she was born 13 years ago, so 2010. We're really talking millennial now, because I think it's a really interesting perspective that we get to see this cross-generational experience at the Royal Adelaide Show, because her memories will be totally different to our memories.
100% different.
And even this building. Did you know that this Goyder building is one of the most efficient energy? It's actually registered as a power station because it has 10,000 square feet of solar panels on top of it. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow, as well as some of the other changes we've seen in the more recent years. But for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, that does wrap up today's episode of Live In. We will see you tomorrow at 12:30 if you're here. If not, we'll see you on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. From me, Vince.
And myself, Nancy. Tell your friends, and we'll see some of you tomorrow.
Am I living?
I reckon I'll go get myself a Dagwood dog now.
Oh, you've been hanging out for one of them.
I only ever get one a year,
My
and it's
goodness.
always at the Royal Adelaide Show.
I think I can do an ice cream.
All right, let's do it. Let's
Look
go.
up into the sky, find the sun on a cloudy day. On a cloudy day. Always said, look up into the sky, find the sun on a cloudy day. On a cloudy day. Mama always said, look up into the sky.
We're not going to sing, are we?
No, we're not going to
Not
sing
today.
No. It's not that kind of day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Goyder Stage here at the Royal Adelaide Show. My name is Vince Fusco.
And I'm Nancy Timpano, and we're really excited to be doing something very different this year. Vince and I are veterans here at the Royal Adelaide Show. We've combined our years together, and it's about 37 combined. I know, that hurts.
Showing
but it's been
our
a hell of
age.
a lot of fun. We have spent so much time here at the Royal Show over the years, but this year we are bringing our podcast, Live In, that you can see on the screen, available on Apple and Spotify. We're bringing it to the stage. We're doing something a bit different. So you guys are going to be involved, so to speak, or our audience for our podcast. And normally it's just you and I.
Normally it's just you and me sitting in a broom cupboard somewhere with our headphones on, having a bit of a chat about the week that was in our life and society. But this week, like you said, we've spent so much time at the Royal Adelaide Show. We
know.
thought, you know what, let's get up here and have a chat about the Royal Adelaide Show. So yesterday we were up here and we recorded an episode looking at the history of the Royal Adelaide Show of years gone by. We looked at really 1925 all the way to sort of 1970 something.
Surely any 1925 people out there, maybe not. Maybe not. Just
Maybe
me.
not.
Just me.
But today, Nancy,
Today-
today we're going to look at modern history.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So today, maybe the things that you're going to see today around the showgrounds that weren't around 20 years ago, and just how much it has changed. And we're actually going to have someone come up on stage and join us that we have actually seen. She's a regular here at the show, as we were as well.
I know.
So we saw her from being in a pram and growing up, and I believe now she's 14. So she's
14.
going to be sharing her experiences here at the Royal Adelaide Show as well.
Is anybody else out there? There's a few young people out there, which is great. Anybody under the age of 14? Hands up. If you're under the age of 14, that's good because that means you'll see what she's talking about. And for those of you who are over 14, hands up. Great, you'll know the things that we're talking about too. That's excellent. Well, look, Nance, let's not waste any time.
That's right. There is a couple of QR codes up on the screen because if you want to grab your phones and scan those, you'll find Vince and I at the other end of those QR codes.
Right.
Because next week on our socials, we have been doing so many fun things around the showgrounds and we cannot wait to share them with you on our socials. So be sure to be following along and you might even spot yourself as well. You never know.
That's right. But if you do happen to take a photograph or a video and share and tag it as well, you could win yourself a Livin' Lifestyle pack too. But you know what? Let's get into today's episode, Nance. Let's take our seats.
Am I living? Oh, what a funny thing to say. But your mama always said, look up into the sky, find the sun on a cloudy day, on a cloudy day. Your mama always said, look up into the sky, find the sun on a cloudy day, on a cloudy day. Your mama always said, look up into the sky.
Nance, we are back at the Royal Adelaide Show today.
Wow,
Happy day two.
It is. It is for us day 2, but it's also about episode 26 or 27. Ooh. We've only been living for about 4 or 5 months now, and we've already reached 20 countries, which is very humbling. And we've got like some amazing few thousand followers, which is awesome as well.
It's been exceptional. And we've been taking our podcast on the road the last couple of months. We've done a couple of in-stores at some local businesses and some local events over the last couple of months. And today, like we said, day 2 at the biggest event in South Australia, of course, the Royal Adelaide Show.
And because we've been a part of it for so long, we feel like we need to bring it even more to you through your ears when you're going for a walk. Let's reminisce on the show, shall
Let's take a little walk down memory lane today, I think, Nance. Yesterday, we were looking at the ancient history. I don't know if we can call it ancient.
Oh, well, ancient for the show terms.
People call us ancient some days.
Yeah, but they should call me a show bag too sometimes.
A show bag?
That's okay, I've been around.
Gee, that's
all right.
That's a fun nickname, I
It'd be
think.
fun to have a show bag.
Well, I'll tell you what, I went through the show bags yesterday afternoon. We went and had a bit of a wander through there, and we started talking about how the show bags started as sample bags all the way back in 1925 and how they've evolved over the years. And you were saying just how much value for money you're getting these days.
Well, that's what you should do. Do your research, people, because like yesterday, for example, I bought a show bag. It was $20, but inside was $45 worth. You're welcome.
And it's a bit like the tickets at the gate. You know what I mean?
That's
You
right.
pay for your ticket to get in. And if you wanted to, you wouldn't have to spend $1 extra. Can I tell you, last year, I spent $11.
Wow.
I brought my family here last year and we donated a couple of bucks to the Royal Flying Doctor Service.
Beautiful.
We went on a giant slippery dip together with the boys and then that was my $11 at the Royal Show.
Oh, but
what a
I bet
spectacular
they had,
day.
No, they would have had a great day. You could literally sit in your chair there and get a show on at 11, 12, 1, 3,
all day.
5 and 6, something like that. There's the outdoor stage. There's stages everywhere.
The main arena, of course. You've got the equestrian. And yesterday we were chatting a little bit about the history of the main arena and how they used to have speedway there all the way till 1936 when they stopped doing the speedway. Of course, the equestrian is still going. We saw that this morning. But we had Shane Wilson on yesterday who talked to us about the flying lotars.
And I remember them.
That is an absolute trip back in down memory lane. But more recently, in the last 20 years, the Royal Show has really changed quite a bit, especially the show grounds.
That's right.
Do you remember the Mad Mouse?
Yes, I do.
Does anybody here remember the Mad Mouse before it was taken away? There's a few hands going up there, yeah?
That was like the focal point, really. Meet you at the Mad Mouse.
Meet you at the Mad Mouse.
Meet you at the Mad Mouse.
100%.
Now it's meet you at the Ferris wheel.
That's right. Absolutely. And the Ferris wheel has been going non-stop since, for all those years.
Breaks?
Well, no, it keeps breaking. We put some oil on it, keep it greased up, of course. But buildings like this one here, we're sitting in the Goyder Pavilion today with our beautiful audience in front of us. The Goyder Pavilion was announced in 2007 to have one of the biggest solar installations in South Australia's history. There's over 10,000 square metres of solar panels right above our heads.
That's fantastic. And on a day like today when the sun is shining, that's the kind of energy we want to be producing.
Big energy, big Royal Show energy.
That's for sure. All right, we spoke earlier about how much the show has evolved from our perspective.
Yes.
But now we'd like to welcome to the Goyder Stage Isla-Cate to come out here and join us and tell us about her experience. Hey, let's give her
a round of applause, folks.
Let's give her one of
we
these.
can give her one of these, can't we?
What we prepared earlier.
Oh, let's just have a quick look here. Let's just see what we got. There we go. We can give you some canned applause. There we go, because you can't quite hear everybody out there.
At the end of the day, it is a
Isla-Cate,
podcast.
welcome to the Livin' Podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're very, very excited to have you here. Now, we mentioned before that you have been coming to the Royal Show for how many years now?
My whole life.
Your entire life, because I remember, Isla-Cate, you in a pram. I remember Vince and I would MC the outdoor stage a couple of years ago. That only ended, but before that, we were out there MCing that stage. And we would see you year after year. We saw you in the pram, in the nappies, into the little toddler, into the teenager that you are today.
But it even goes beyond that.
Yes.
I think I've seen Isla-Cate's beautiful face up here on this very stage. Isla-Cate, you've also been a performer at the Royal Show, is that right?
Yes, I have.
What show last year were you in?
Last year I was in Postcards from Around the World produced by Shane International on this Goyder Stage.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
And look, what an opportunity it is for you to have a forum like this to perform in front of a crowd right here in your hometown. How was it for you?
It was very surreal. It was very professional as well. So it was my first kind of big show, and I was super proud of myself, and it was very great to perform for my family and show them that everything they've put into singing lessons and dancing lessons have all
And
paid
driving
off.
you around.
Yeah,
I know
and
the one.
driving
Yep.
me around.
Now, Isla-Cate, we were saying about the memories of the Royal Show. Given that you are 14, that puts you right into the millennial category. I think we can say that. Are we allowed to say the millennial category? Tell us a little bit about what you remember about growing up, or what's changed here at the Royal Show in your time.
Like your first memories to now.
I can't remember everything.
Of course, of course.
But,
Highlights.
some highlights for me was definitely the teacup ride, going on the teacup ride with my pop, who unfortunately passed away last year. But this year, I'll definitely be going on it again, even though I'm a bit older, because I want to relive those amazing memories.
See, that's what it's all about, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Yep.
Definitely seeing the stage show on this stage every year, that has definitely been a highlight, because it's just so amazing and there's so many good singers and dancers. And the ghost train is also been a big highlight for me.
The ghost train.
Yeah, going on it with my family and being petrified, but it still made lots of memories. But so many things have changed. So there was some things that I really remember was the parade
Yes.
that went up and down. I haven't seen that at all for a long time. I don't know when it stopped.
No,
But
We remember that. That used to be at 12:30.
Every day. It was led by the Royal Show Jesters, and I think
Yes.
it was the mascot parade. It had
Yes,
every
that's
mascot
right.
of the Royal Show, all of the South Australian brands you could think of. They
the
were
South
all
Australian
in there.
Police Band was involved.
Fruit Chop was there.
Yep.
The Lamington from Kyneton's Bakery. All my favourite things.
That's right. Maybe we need to bring that one back.
Maybe, I think
We'll
we
talk
should.
to our people.
We'll have our people call your people. What else, Isla-Cate? So there's the parade.
definitely roaming characters as well.
Yep.
I remember the butterflies. They were
They
three
were
butterflies.
stunning, weren't they? Yeah.
They were these beautiful people that were just so lovely and majestic, and I would always give them a flower every time I saw them.
Aw.
It was definitely a big memory of bringing a flower in to give to them. And there was also a big robot. I'm not 100% sure of the name.
what was? Yes, we had
Titus? Titan?
Titan.
Titan the robot?
Titan, I think possibly. Yes,
I think I remember him out on the Kingsway performing.
and he'd give all the ladies roses.
Yes.
Little flirt.
That's a good flashback there.
Yeah, because I remember he would always give my mum a rose.
Oh,
So
romance isn't dead.
No, that's right. So, Isla-Cate, tell me, what are your aspirations? What would you like to be when you grow up? And has anything of that come from the Royal Show?
Well, when I grow up, I really want to be a performer in Triple Threat because it's been in my blood since I was younger, and it's always something I've always wanted to do. So being on this stage has definitely influenced that and impacted that in a great way because
Yep.
it's been stepping stones towards my future goal. And I've got so many other career choices that I would want, but being a journalist has also been super fun. Being right here, public speaking is definitely one thing that I
Amazing.
really like.
Yep.
So, and just it's stuff in the science field. So there's lots of cool agricultural science things around that also influence that as well. So I think the show is definitely a part of me that will influence my future careers to come.
I
think
remember
that's beautiful.
seeing you last year performing and knowing that you did want to be perhaps a journalist and whatever. I remember saying, if I ever hang up the microphone, the only person I'd happily hand it over to would be Isla-Cate. But Isla-Cate, I'm not ready.
Oh, well, fair enough, fair enough. It's funny that you say that because as
Remember?
Isla-Cate was sitting here explaining her career and watching
Yeah.
the Royal Show, I mentioned it yesterday. I had my career start at the Royal Show when I was 4 years old as well.
Yep.
So I've been here for what feels like an eternity. But as I'm sitting here, I'm getting this weird kind of like
Oh.
timeline, crossover, Nancy, Isla-Cate. This could be you in,
We could
I don't want to say how many years.
Look, I've still got a bit in me yet, but I tell you what, I would happily hand over the reins when the time comes.
When the time comes.
When the time comes.
Pry it
to
from
you,
my
Isla-Cate,
cold,
because,
dead hands.
Yeah, I think the it's from experience.
Yeah.
Isla-Cate has been around it as much as we have, so I think that's when you do a job well and it comes from a place of passion.
Yeah.
When you've been amongst it for that long.
Absolutely.
So,
So tell us, Isla-Cate, today, what's on the cards at the Royal Adelaide Show for you? Where are you off to after the stage?
Well, I'll definitely be seeing lights, camera, action on this stage.
Perfect.
I've seen it a couple times before, but it's amazing. The costumes, singing, the dancing, it's just top notch. And all the cast look like they're really enjoying it on the stage, which is very important when you're performing. I'll definitely be going on some rides, so probably the Ferris wheel, maybe the ghost train again, just to, relive those
Nostalgia.
memories. A show bag pavilion, that's always been a big highlight, to have a look at some show bags and probably get a chip on a stick.
I love it.
It's a must.
Well, it
It's a
sounds like
must.
a very full afternoon for you, young lady. So we're going to let you head off and enjoy the rest of your day at the Royal Adelaide Show. Ladies and gentlemen, please give her a round of applause. Isla-Cate, our guest for today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you,
Pleasure,
Isla-Cate.
And you can listen in on Monday on Spotify when this episode is released.
That's right.
But wow, just honestly to watch her, because we saw her in a pram.
Well, it's amazing what the Royal Show does. It brings everybody together, not just performers to the stage, but it brings the country to the city. And it's been doing that for over 184 years. Do you believe that?
Oh, well, I remember you and I were emceeing when we cut the 175th
Yes.
birthday cake outside. Do you remember that morning?
It was
That
the biggest birthday cake I've ever seen in my life, and nobody popped out of it, unfortunately.
But it had to feed a lot of people
Oh
that
my
have
gosh.
been involved for all those years.
And across the history of the Royal Adelaide Show, in all of those years, it's only ever been cancelled a handful of times, 4 times, for the plague, World War II, and of course for the last couple of years in 2020 and 2021 with coronavirus.
That's
but
right.
It's so wonderful that the Royal Show has been able to come back from 2022 all the way to today at 2023. We're having record numbers down here.
Yes.
The people are having a wonderful time. Adelaide, are you having a wonderful time at the Royal Adelaide Show? Oh, you're going to have to be much louder than that, folks. Are you having a wonderful time at the Royal Show? Oh, beautiful. Well, Nancy, you know what? There's so many other things that I still want to go and have a look at this afternoon. We're going to catch lights, camera, action at 1.
Yep.
And then I'm going to head down to the other side. I've got the wood chopping this afternoon.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And I think the famous milk-off happened
Oh,
today.
you love a good milk off.
Yes,
Just
I
milking
love
it.
that.
Just
Always
milking it
milking
every
it.
second at the Royal Show.
Always milking it. So speaking of milking it, wouldn't mind an ice cream either.
All right, well, let's head down to the Dairy Pavilion, grab ourselves a milkshake. But ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to listen along to this episode and every other episode of Livin' that's gone to air, jump onto Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you've got your phone, you can scan those QR codes as well. Like Nancy said, you'll find our faces at the other end of them. And if you do happen to share, tag and follow along, you can win yourself a Livin' prize as well.
And the bonus with watching on Spotify is you actually get to watch. That's
Oh,
why
yes.
we've got our fabulous videographer over here, Nacho, taking video, and you can see his amazing work on Monday because it's second to none.
But for now, ladies and gentlemen, from me, Vince,
And myself, Nancy Timpano, have a fabulous day at the Royal Adelaide Show.
see you next year.
Am I living? Oh, what a funny thing to say. But your mama always said